This program is provided by Universal Genesis.
Okay, let's dive in. Today we are tackling something that is notoriously complex, but also, I think, really beautiful. Martin Heidegger's concept of Lichtung.
The clearing.
The clearing. And our mission, really, is to trace this one German word from what seems like a simple translation puzzle all the way back to, well, the German woods and even the life of his own father.
It's a huge concept.
Yeah.
I mean, people often say Lichtung is the absolute cornerstone of his later thinking about existence, about Sein, but it's also a huge hurdle when you're first trying to get it.
It is.
Because it's not just a word, you know? It's a very specific cultural image that he then abstracts into this massive universal structure for history.
Right, and the sources you brought in show that challenge right away, just by looking at translation. I mean, the struggle to move Lichtung into other languages, it makes the whole philosophical problem pop. Specifically, this amazing effort in Japanese to render it as a hierarchy.
Yes, OE. And what's so fascinating is the immediate conflict that word creates. In German, Heidegger is so careful. He uses Lichtung, which is a noun, a solid, concrete noun.
It just means a clearing in the forest, a glade.
Exactly, a place where the light can get in, and he deliberately avoids the command form, open.
But that's the thing, in everyday Japanese, hierarchy is almost always that command. It's like, open sesame.
It is. It implies an agent, a person yelling at the world to open up and show itself.
Which is the exact opposite of what Heidegger's trying to say.
Precisely. That human command is the one thing he wants to get away from. The whole philosophical insight here is that existence isn't something we pry open with our will. We don't. We don't command the clearing.
So if the German is a noun and the Japanese is usually a command, why do people say the translation is so ingenious? What makes it work?
Well, because the core idea of Lichtung is that the world hierokuru, it opens of itself. It happens on its own, without us. And the translators saw that. They realized that in this philosophical context, you had to read hierarchy differently.
Not as a command to act.
No, not as an action, but as the abstract quality of openness itself. It sort of forces the reader to step back and realize, oh, the opening's already here. We are, thrown into this clearing. We don't show up with an axe and create it.
That distinction is so critical. The idea of it being a spontaneous space we find ourselves in, not an act we perform. Okay, so let's connect that to the bigger picture. Where does this clearing fit in Western thought? You said he was trying to fix a problem left by Kant.
A massive problem. He was aiming straight for Kant's biggest, most famous barrier. Kant, you see, drew this hard, absolute line between two realms.
The phenomenon and the thing in itself.
Right. So can you walk us through what that wall looked like for him?
Sure. The phenomenon is basically everything we can get our hands on. It's the world of our senses, of science, of human knowledge. It's what we see, touch, measure.
But the thing in itself, that's the big mystery. That's existence itself, reality as it really is. And Kant said we can never, ever access it directly. It's sitting behind this, permanently opaque wall.
The completely closed-off universe. So if Kant says we can't get there, what does Lichtung do? Is it like a key to unlock the door, a drill to get through the wall?
It's neither. And that's the genius of it. It's the space that exists before the wall is even relevant. Lichtung is this threshold, this spontaneous opening that loosens Kant's absolute division.
So it's not like the whole thing in itself is suddenly blasted with light.
Not at all. Yeah. It's more like Lichtung is the space through which existence can partially show itself. It can leak through, manifest itself.
Okay, I think I get it. We're not staring directly at the sun, but we're standing in the gap between the clouds where a single ray of light can hit the ground.
That's a perfect analogy. We can't grab existence, but the clearing is the necessary condition for anything to show up as something we can understand. Heidegger has another word for this, Erschlossenheit. Disclosedness. The clearing is the space of disclosure. Without it, nothing appears. At all.
Okay, so we've got the clearing as this fundamental space where truth can happen, but you mentioned it's not static. This is where it gets wild for me. The clearing moves. It changes across history. You called it Seinsgeschichte.
The history of being, yeah.
Yeah.
This is a huge move on his part. He argues that this clearing, this fundamental way the world shows up for us, doesn't just sit in one place. Its shape, its location, what it illuminates, that shifts across millennia.
And what you're saying is that this shift, the movement of the Lichtung, is basically the movement of the center of civilization itself.
It is. It's the shifting framework that defines what we even count as real or true in any given era.
That's a great way for us to grasp this. The way we see reality is defined by where the light is falling. Let's use your examples. What did the world look like in the clearing for the ancient Greeks?
For the Greeks, the center of the clearing was physis. But
Yeah.
more than just nature, it was nature's self-disclosure. The world revealed itself through growth, through birth, through emergence. And for them, truth aletheia wasn't about being correct, it was unconcealment. Truth was when something stepped out of hiddenness into the open, on its own terms. Humans were basically there to listen and watch.
Okay, so we're observers. Then centuries pass, the center shifts. We hit, say, 17th century Europe, the Enlightenment. What's lighting the stage now?
The light beam turns inward. It's dramatic. The center of the clearing moves into the subject, the human ego.
So the world stops opening itself.
And it starts opening itself as a representation of, or a parent for us, for humans, to grasp and measure and control. The world becomes a picture that we create in our own minds.
We go from being the audience to being the lighting director.
That's a perfect way to put it. The clearing is now a stage lit by our rationality. And this leads directly to the final shift, the one Heidegger was most worried about. Our age, the technological age.
What happens when the clearing is defined by technology?
The center becomes what he calls Gestell in framing. And this, for him, is the most dangerous clearing of all, because it doesn't even let the world appear as a picture anymore. It only lets it appear as B-stand.
B-stand. That's a really specific, crucial term. What is it?
It means something like resource or standing reserves, utilizable stock. Under Gestell, the whole world, and I mean everything, even us, is only revealed insofar as it can be stored, managed, optimized, calculated.
So a river isn't a river, it's hydroelectric potential.
Exactly. A forest is timber inventory. A person is human resources. The data points to be deployed.
So the history of Western thought is really the history of this window, this Lichtung, changing its shape and really narrowing its focus.
Yes. From nature's raw power to a picture in our mind to just a pool of resources.
Which brings us to the most personal part of this. Because for all this grand, abstract theory about civilization, the image of the clearing itself comes from a very concrete place, doesn't it? The Black Forest, the Schwarzwald.
Oh, absolutely. It's born from that deep cultural experience of carving out a space for a village, for a farm, and always feeling the threat that the deep, dark woods are going to come back and swallow it whole.
That tension between human order and this overwhelming power of existence, that's the root image.
That's the root.
Yeah.
And there's a paradox here, because Heidegger himself, he performed this image. He was the forest philosopher in his little hut, his huta. He used that image to push back against what he saw as sterile urban thinking.
But at the same time, while performing it, he hid the source.
He did. He hid the specific local sensory details. You don't read about the smell of the earth or the fear of the forest in his philosophy. He had to abstract it all away.
Why hide it? Why couldn't the universal theory keep its, muddy boots?
Two big reasons, really. The first is philosophical ambition. He wanted it to be universal. If he tied Lichtung too closely to his home in the Black Forest, people would just dismiss it as like German nostalgia, folklore.
It would lose its power as a global concept.
Exactly. And the second reason is, well, it's deeply political.
Yeah.
Especially after World War II.
Right. The imagery of the forest.
He was completely contaminated by Nazi ideology, the whole Blut und Boden, blood and soil thing. It linked German identity to the purity of the landscape. For his philosophy to survive after the war, to be taken seriously, he had to scrub the forest clean of that specific German reference. He had to lift it out of politics and into metaphysics.
That's a huge intellectual leap, to distance himself from his own experience like that. But the sources show it goes even deeper, that the most personal layer isn't just the forest, it's his father, the barrel maker, the Kufer.
Yes. His father's world was Heidegger's first lesson in what existence is, a barrel maker. He works with wood, with shape, with silence. It's his direct, tangible world. And that became the concrete root for what he would later call existence itself.
How does making a barrel connect to a philosophical clearing?
Well, think about what a barrel is. It's an open space, right?
Yeah.
But it's an open space created by taking this wild material from the forest, the wood, and carefully constraining it, shaping it. The barrel maker has to read the truth of the wood, its grain, and then bend it into this contained shape.
So the barrel is both open to hold things and closed because it constrains them.
It's the perfect analogy for Lichtung. The clearing is the space that contains reality, shaped by history, where existence is revealed, but also hidden by the very framework that makes it visible. The father's quiet, diligent work.
Yeah.
It's like a grim fairy tale. the craftsman who understands the material world.
And this leads to your final point about his whole philosophy having this fractal structure, where every layer is just a version of the same pattern.
Yes, exactly. The same structure of opening, hiding, revealing. It just repeats at every scale.
So you start with the close existence, the father, the craftsman, that small, contained world of meaning.
Then you scale up to the far existence. The Black Forest, the local myths, the landscape that shaped the father and the whole community.
And finally, the grand abstraction. Sign, existence itself, and Lichtung. The biggest fractal layer, which is just the entire history of reality manifesting itself, a history that mirrors the shape of the barrel and the opening in the woods.
And that's why the word is so hard to translate. It has to carry the weight of the personal, the cultural, and the universal all at once.
So we've done it. We've traced Lichtung from a Japanese translation puzzle, through Kant, through the history of civilization, and all the way back to his father's workshop in the Black Forest.
And that whole journey, it exposes this central tension in his thought, that move he had to make. From the raw, specific, smelly image of the forest clearing to the abstract universal history clearing. It came at a cost.
The knowledge we gain from that move is immense. It gives us a powerful way to understand our technological world.
But the cost was, as one source calls it, the triteness of the original image. The living, breathing truth was sacrificed to the universal theory. And that leaves us with a question, I think. When we take a deep, local-rooted truth and scale it up into a massive global theory, we gain so much power. But what part of its original life, its meaning, do we have to kill to make it speak to everyone? That question of sacrifice is, for me, what's really hidden in the clearing.
This program is provided by Universal Genesis.